so first off, I just want you to introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about what you do and who you are.
Sure. So I'm Amanda from Case Study Queen. I am a case study writer and social proof strategist. I work with coaches, course creators, and membership owners to create case studies and testimonials that they can then use and repurpose across their marketing channels and in their sales funnels. That way they can kind of shine a light on their unique difference in the market, and they can stand out from the crowd and connect with more of their ideal client. I'm based in Australia, but everything I do is completely online, so it doesn't matter where in the world my clients or their customers are. I frequently work with people that are in the UK and their clients are in the US, and I'm in Australia, and it's it's a bit of a wonderful global community at the moment. So yeah,
that's awesome.
That's my rundown.
That's great. I really like that idea of social proof strategist. I've never quite heard it put that way before, and it makes a lot of sense because I think we sort of think like social proof is I get a testimonial and I put it on my Instagram and that's my social proof. So like if we can sort of like dive a little bit deeper into like what does it mean to have a social proof strategy?
Yeah, I think when it comes to social proof strategy, you're looking at the different elements of your marketing that are providing like empathy and authority, because empathy is around how well you understand your clients' challenges and problems, and then you've got authority, which is how well do you solve them. And these are the questions that we try to answer when we're writing our copy, but then bringing in social proof from other people's experiences that have worked with you really is where the strategic part comes in, who you select and where you put it and how it lines up with your existing copy. How well does it work across the channels that you're working on now, whether it's Pinterest or email or webinars, or where to use it in a sales funnel. So a big part of what I offer is working with people and going, okay, right, what's your marketing strategy now? What funnels do you have? Let's break this down. Let's see where you need stuff. And that's basically the strategic part. And I love that part so much. I started emphasizing that a lot more, and my clients really appreciated the support around that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's just something that we don't really think about, or even if they are thinking of like getting a case study, they're already in that headspace where they know it's important, they know that they want it, but it's like, oh, then I'll just like put it on my website and the end.
Yep. Yeah, and they're so versatile. I love looking at people's marketing plans in their business and going, you can use this here, you can use that there, and they're like, it's like I can use it everywhere. Someone just told them they needed a case study, or someone wrote them a sales page and said, you need some case studies, but they don't know what to do with them beyond just popping them on their website.
Yeah, exactly. So then let's say, okay, so they've kind of covered a little bit the strategy side there, which I think is really, really interesting. And like in general, like why even have these to begin with? Like what is the sort of value of having case studies like on your website throughout your marketing funnels and all of those different areas in your marketing?
Yeah, look, case studies are social proof. They're like the heavyweight champs of social proof, right? Because they provide evidence that you can deliver on what you promise via a third-party endorsement. So it's not like in a, wow, I'm awesome, or even like a testimonial, hey, this person thinks I'm awesome kind of way, because, they could be your mum for all your reader knows. And I mean, there's so many studies online talking about how important it is to people to get referrals and to get recommendations before they buy services and that sort of thing. So yeah, it really comes down to like the impact of like extra social proof beyond just reviews and testimonials, which are important and they have their place, but it's kind of that next level thing. It creates this point of genuine connection so the reader is like, oh, they're like me moment. So they're brought into that experience, and they understand the process and the outcome, not just not just like the rave review at the end. Like they can see the whole process and they can see themselves in it. You're showing, you're not telling, and that's like the story aspect of it is super powerful because we have a culture of learning about things through story.
Yeah, completely. And I actually remember once one of my clients was looking for someone to help them with PPC, so like pay-per-click advertising, which isn't something that I do. So I was like, oh, well, I've got a group of like, with SEO people, and I was like, I can ask around there. And so a few people left like their websites in the comments, and the girl who I chose was the girl who had case studies published because yeah, I was like, okay, they all had similar services. They all had similar promises. They all had similar results. But going on her website and seeing like case studies, here's how X company got this specific result because of this specific process that I did with them, was really like, oh, okay, wow, so really from like that was like, okay, sold. And then I just gave her email straight to the client and I was like, yeah, I think she's really good. Like, and it was from having a case study on her website, having like one or two. It wasn't even like she had 20. It was like one or two really detailed. And it was just like, wow, she got them amazing results.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've got experiences where I've invested in something that's quite high cost because I was considering the service and I was going through the examples and case studies looking for someone that was like me. Can this person serve my needs? And that ultimately helped make a decision on a high cost purchase. So yeah, people do it all the time for sure.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's like when we sort of talk about, I don't know, I mean, as copywriters, we obviously know, the bigger the investment, the longer the sales page, the more, you have to overcome more objections and all that stuff. And I feel as well like that's also where case studies can really shine because it's like if it is a higher investment, you might need more than just testimonials,
Yeah.
That's kind of like how I feel.
And it's
I need more.
I think it's interesting how you talk about overcoming objections. The one, like something that I really love about case studies is that it's a very authentic way of marketing, and because it presents the circumstances, it presents the experience, and it allows the reader to come to their own conclusion. It aids in their decision-making process. So it's not just finding an objection and going, oh, well, this is the answer to that. Like they find the answer themselves if your product, if your service or your product is a good fit for them. And if it's not, well, then it reveals that too. So yeah, for me, it's a very authentic way of getting some heavy hitting, marketing oomph into your sales pages without being salesy and without just trying to overcome objections, because ultimately you want people to make a decision that they're invested in, and if they feel like they've made the right decision, then they're going to be invested in your product. They're going to be they're going to end up being the advocates for your brand and the raving fans and that sort of thing, because they feel in control and the choice was theirs the whole way through.
Exactly. And as well, it's like, when we talk about overcoming objections, it's like, oh, and the FAQ, it's like, is this course right for me? If yes, of course it is, because blah, blah, blah. But, and it's like, it is like you say, it's a much less authentic way of doing that because it's like, well, of course you're going to tell me that.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you actually you can read a story and you can see if they had the same objections, but they were able to get a really good result out of it and it was actually worth them overcoming that, that's way more than anything we could just put in an FAQ, for instance.
Exactly.
So what kind of businesses benefit the most from case studies?
Well, I think if there's a decision to be made that is high cost, high value, high risk, high complexity, or high competition, they're all the areas that would benefit from that extra oomph, right? So it's not so much a specific business type, it's more around your offer. So in regards to high cost, not just a high dollar amount, it's relative to your audience. So how much of a stretch is it for them? So how much,
I love that.
How much more support they need to make the decision and know if it's right for them. A high value would be like, what sort of wide impact will this have on their life? If it is like a big impact that will touch many areas of their life, like it's a high value offer. Things like high risk. So what's the risk of not taking action? Is it an opportunity cost, or is it something more critical like a security risk? So in that regard, it might be, you know, a security software or something like that. You would really want to see like evidence that it works, because if you invest that money and you put it in place in your company and it doesn't work, that is a high risk situation. High complexity. If your offer has like a lot of moving parts and it isn't easily explained just on a website, or case studies are a really good way to kind of see under the hood, so to speak. And high competition is like, if you're in a market that's like fairly saturated, and a lot of online businesses are, it's almost like on the surface, it appears like they're going after the same audience, but there's a lot of nuances to that. And I think case studies help draw out those nuances. So if you're demonstrating specifics about who is the best fit, those that aren't can more easily self-select out and go elsewhere. And those that are a good fit, they will self-identify with your brand, with your offer, with your personality, with your, you know, that whole thing, and they will gravitate towards what you're offering. So those are kind of the broad categories I think of it. Like
I like that. I like a lot about the high complexity. And I especially feel like, you know, when we're so like in our world all the time, and we only, like, I mean, us, for instance, we only talk with other marketers, we only talk with other business owners, we only talk with other online business owners. I even find sometimes like someone asks me what I do, and I like know they have no schema for understanding what I do. And I like legit struggle. I'm like, you know, I like, you know, content, right? Like, you need to get it on Google. That's kind of like where I come in, but you know, it's like, it's really difficult. So I imagine like if you're like a very, maybe even like B2B, quite complex kind of thing. I know there's lots of different complex business models, but they can get so like that in their own world that they may be struggling to communicate it to people. And having a case study is like, oh, this person got this result, here's how. And it does make it much more human and understandable, which I really, really love. And there was something actually just popped into my head there. It was from the other day, because I'm currently doing the marketing seminar by Seth Godin. And I was having a conversation with one guy who's in like a very B2B business. Again, one of those complex businesses that I think could benefit from a case study. And I was actually talking to him about case studies. And I was saying like, you know, I noticed on your website you don't have any, like, why? And he said, and I think this is actually quite common because I've heard other people say this, oh, well, we don't want to like publish our clients for fear of them being poached by other companies. I have never heard that before, and I imagine it's a much more B2B kind of thing. But what would you say to that?
Yeah, I have heard that before, and I've also heard people have concerns about revealing too much about their inner workings and their processes and that sort of thing. And I think within the market I work in, which is like that coaches, course creators, membership owners, it's very specific, their offering, and they don't begrudge kind of trading audiences, for example, because the people that are with them are kind of very specific for them. They've been chosen. Those sorts of concerns, like you said, might come more from the B2B space, like the tech startups and enterprise and that sort of thing, where they are competing for a lot of the same markets. And I think maybe there's also a point of like, have you really differentiated yourself enough to show why you're unique, because in reality, if you are providing the solution, like if you're the best fit solution for that person, then they won't have need to go anywhere else.
Right.
So I mean, that's an element to consider.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I was actually, now I remember where this next quote came in. I was like, I have a quote in my head and I can't remember who said it. It was Joel Klettke, who does like case studies and stuff as well. But on Twitter, I think he said that he had heard this a lot. And I think it's because he probably works a lot in like that B2B space.
He does. Yeah.
And he said it was well, I mean, put it this way, what if your competitors can publish a library of demonstrable proof that what they do works and then you don't? You know, that they can keep their promises and here is the proof and you don't have that, you know? And I thought
100%.
That's really like,
yeah.
And exactly like you say as well, it's like, you know, you should be confident enough in what you offer to who, like that you're this best possible solution for the people that you're serving, that they're not going to go anywhere else, basically. Like if you're just like, I'm a digital marketing agency for everyone, you know, it's like that's a whole different story. You know, it's like, well, yeah, I can go anywhere then. Like I don't feel special in any shape or form, you know. So I really like that as well, about like making sure you're actually differentiated enough so that you're just the best option for them anyway. So I know this is probably a little bit of a how long is a piece of string kind of question, but how many case studies should you typically be aiming for?
I mean, it was interesting that you said before you went to that person's website and they had just a few really detailed case studies. I think the quality of the case study is really critical. More doesn't necessarily mean better. I think there comes a point where it's just words for words sake, and how many case studies are people reading through? It depends on the offer. It depends on the diversity of your audience. So you can, I mean, even someone with quite a similar audience, once they start looking at individual people, they will start seeing that diversity. So which one's a good representation of your ideal client, because case studies get you more of the same. That's exactly who they draw in. Your existing customers draw in more people like them. But not only that, but how well do those experiences align with like your business goals and your key messages and the things you want people to know and the questions you want to answer. So it's really about the quality of the case study and how you're going to be using it. That is key to how many you need. I mean, for example, I'm working with someone who wants case studies for a lead magnet, and they're very specific about wanting 5 case studies because they, within their business model, they've identified like 5 different almost archetypes, avatars that they want to be able to speak to. So that is part of their strategic approach. So yeah, it depends, but there are, you know, ways of figuring it out. And even if you start with just a couple of very detailed case studies, you'll get a feel for how people are responding and what sort of messages they need to hear. And then from there, you know, you can decide how many more you need.
Perfect. And I imagine as well, like, yeah, that was a really good point about if you have different avatars, having a case study per avatar, you know, per sort of persona or however we want to call it. I feel like they're called like, I just hear avatar and I think of the big blue people.
Same here. I mean, I would like to say though, like in my mind, even though I say avatar, case studies are targeting your actual ideal client. And for me, I differentiate between ideal client avatar and actual ideal client. Your avatar is the idea of your ideal client. Like you constructed this, you know, these demographics and these psychographics, and you've given them a name, and they get coffee from here, and they, you know, drive this sort of car, right? but then your actual ideal client is the person that actually buys your product. Like they're the people who are investing in your business. And in reality, they'll be a lot more diverse than a single avatar. So it's almost like if you've got like your audience, like anywhere your message would reach, and then within that you've got your target audience, which is who you're like specifically trying to reach. Within that you've got your avatar, your ideal client avatar, and then within that you've got your actual ideal client. And that's the point that case studies are going for, because they are demonstrating stories and evidence from your actual ideal client, which is why they're so good at bringing in more of that client, because it's like sniper specific, right? Marketing, targeted marketing.
I love it. I've never actually heard it put like that, and I really, really like it, because one of the things like I've always found about like eye rolly with like the whole avatar thing, it's exactly what you said. It's like you kind of have this person and it's like, okay, it's that person, and you're just like, yeah, but I mean, like an entire market is just it's very diverse. Even like one person is very, very diverse. And it's like, yeah, no, I just have Paul, he loves getting her Starbucks latte on a Friday night.
And I see so many business owners getting frustrated about it, because they're just like they know it's an imaginary person, and they're like, I've done the thing I'm supposed to do. I created an avatar. What do I do with this imaginary person? Right. And it's, and that's where, doing market research with copywriters when they write web pages, websites and sale pages and stuff is so important, because you're not dealing with imagination, you're dealing with like real life people.
Exactly. Okay, so how do you make sure that your case studies aren't like all too similar? This is something I was kind of wondering. I mean, I think we've tapped into a little bit with like maybe different kind of avatars or that sort of thing, but how do we make sure there's like a kind of diversity, just so people aren't like reading the same results or like the same story over and over again?
Yeah, actually that's a really great question. One, like businesses that have a really good relationship with their customers, they intuitively understand about presenting. They intuitively understand like the different types of people that they're drawing into their business, and they're like, these relationship businesses are a lot of the businesses I work with. So even though it might be one product that you're writing about, be it a course or a membership or something, each individual person's experience of that product and the impact it has on their life is different. The same product, like I'll ask people like, what was the biggest impact, like what made the biggest impact on you from like this certain part of the course, and like I can interview 3 different people and they'll say 3 different things, because their needs and their challenges are all individual. And added to that is the results are different, businesses are different. The wider impact on someone's personal life is different. Like it's not an issue I've come across before. I mean, I think maybe if you started doing case studies at volume and they didn't really go deep enough, they'll kind of just like surface level summary stuff. It would superficially look similar, but that is not so much the fault of the case study, it's the fault of a bad strategic approach.
Right. Okay.
So, I mean, and that's where it comes into it, because that's the strategic element to choosing like the right participants for the case studies, because there'll be certain messaging in the business, that they want to communicate through the case study. So things like what they want the reader to know that they wouldn't understand until they worked with that business, and what questions or hesitations might a reader have that they might not say out loud. Right. But when they read it in someone else's story, they can relate to it and recognize it in themselves. Like, yeah, I'm worried about investing in another course and I'm never going to complete. That might be a narrative in their head that they don't verbalize. Right. So just imagine them reading about someone else that had that same hesitation, and then they talk about how the course had great implementation support that motivated them to participate and take action, or that it had a great community that were encouraging and offered peer accountability. So that addresses someone's specific challenge. So the evolution of the experience and the whole story from before, during, and after is different for everyone. So you can see, and again, that's like less about overcoming specific objections, and it's more about helping people self-select into your offer because they understand that it's the right fit for them.
Love that. I really like that. Yeah, that's perfect. So like what mediums in particular can we present a case study in? So I know like you actually mentioned white papers. So like do people use these as lead magnets, videos, podcasts even? I don't know. How typically do you
like there's so many different marketing channels that you can utilize case studies on. You can just use them in full on your website. You can have like a customer success story page or tied into your services page, on a sales page, that sort of thing. You can just put it in the web copy, or you can have a downloadable PDF. Quite a few people have downloadable PDF. But then going beyond the web page, you can break down, you can pull out like different quotes and use them specifically in your like social media captions, that might address like a specific challenge or a particular part of the process or celebrates a particular outcome. So you would describe that and you can pull a quote in to demonstrate that. So you can kind of splice and dice it in that regard. You can tell stories through like lead magnets and white papers and that sort of thing. I know that case studies are done like around like writing up grant offers and that sort of thing where they need solid examples. I've seen case studies in Facebook ads, like a whole like summarize case study. You can, let's see, if you wanted to go like the verbal route, you could learn to speak to the story, and you can verbalize it in like your webinar or in a podcast or during a presentation where you get to speak the stories of your clients. And that, I mean, that's a great way of showing your empathy and authority, is showing how invested you are in the stories of your clients. You can turn it into an infographic. You can, Instagram, you can put like key ideas like across a carousel. If there is a platform or if there is a channel, there is a way to use or repurpose a case study for that channel. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Because at the end of the day, it's a huge chunk of content, it just has like so much more potential than to just be on like your website. I mean, I'm sure you can like pull quotes out of that for months.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got one client who actually has like a VA who's a content repurposer, and I delivered like a case study, and also I do something called killer quotes, which is like around creating testimonials and quotes taken from my interview with their clients, which serves for market research, but that is like they can really splice and dice that. And she was like, oh my God, like I don't even have to do anything with this. Like I can just pull it out. And she was planning to make multiple blog posts from it. So basically the client would tell part of the story in her own voice, and then she would demonstrate that with like a section of quotes from the client. Like she could talk to like a specific part of the service, and then like you can obviously SEO it and that sort of thing. It's
so much potential.
There's probably like heaps more, but yeah, if you give me a channel, I will find a way to use case studies on it, basically.
Email also, I've seen them a lot in emails. I've sometimes just had an email that's just been
did I not say email? Yeah, email too, for sure. Yeah.
And that I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always kind of seen them as well as working really well towards that kind of bottom of funnel, like when people are like should I? And it's like, oh, this case study. I feel like I can work really well there, but have you noticed it work like in
Yes.
other sort of areas? Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, like top of funnel, bottom of funnel. So top of funnel, you're bringing people into your world. Telling stories is a great way to do that. So you can do that through your social media, and it really helps establish you as a brand, like the inside look of you as a brand, your values, the type of people that you work with. And people are like, oh, well, that's kind of like me. Are these my people? Sort of thing. Through Facebook posts, through emails, like I guess your broader email lists, if it's not specifically targeted for a sales thing. So they and lead magnets, of course, like to a cold audience, that's top of funnel as well. So and then down to the pointy end, essentially, like the decision making time, crunch time. That is going to be part of the information that people are using to weigh up their decision, and it helps them make that decision.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Yes, true.
So
Actually,
all through funnels, across channels. It's I might be biased, but I think they're fantastic. I think they're wonderful.
I agree that. Okay, so what are some of the biggest case study mistakes that you see business owners doing, whether they DIY it or just, I don't know, maybe new copywriters even starting out? What are the sort of the big kind of mistakes or that people should avoid?
I think one of the biggest mistakes is not understanding the purpose of a case study as a demonstration of transformation. Say, like a good testimonial can show you transformation, but it can't usually show you how. So I think one of the biggest mistakes is being too superficial with a case study, not choosing the right people for your case study that align with the goals of your business, and just going, like, I need a case study. Let's just like get someone with some sort of result, right? But it might be someone that doesn't want to talk about their challenge beforehand. And I've worked with clients where they've had someone with a fantastic result, but it's the kind of person that would be reluctant to talk about their starting place. I was like, without that, you've got nothing with a case study, because the people in your audience, they are in that before state. That is where they're entering your story. So you have to meet them there and show them how they can get to the success. It's not enough just to talk about the success at the end. You have to show them how they can get there. And I think that key part of the transformation is a part that's missed in less effective case studies. So that, and not choosing the right people.
Yeah, and it can also be quite alienating, I think. Like it's the kind of thing, like when people only talk about their successes, and it's just, I feel like that could even be quite alienating to someone. It's like, okay, well, they got this success, but maybe they're just better than me. Maybe they're just
exactly. Like I think I've used that exact example. Like, you look at someone else's success, and it's like, that's great for them, but I'm different. My situation is unique. That won't happen for me, because, so it basically removes that. People will come up with all sorts of excuses not to like push themselves or take a challenging step, and and that's the reality. And the case study just lays out the evidence for them, so they can read all the circumstances and they can come to the conclusion themselves. That it's possible for them.
Definitely. Like, I feel like as well, one of the things, maybe like, I don't know, if I only saw case studies with, say, men, I don't know, or like another woman like me who has like, a kid who has children, and they only see like case studies with men, they're like, oh, well, yeah, of course they don't have to, they probably aren't like at home with the kids all the time, like, normally we are. So like whenever you see, for instance, it's like a mother of two or something like that, it's like, oh, well, this is someone with a similar life situation to me.
I was consulting with a client just recently. They have a program catered to women over 60, and they kind of say, oh yeah, it's suitable for all sorts of age ranges, like from 60 up. And it's like, well, what about the person that looks at your stuff and goes, oh, well, I'm 78, I'm almost 80. Like, is this this really suitable for me?
Mhm.
And just telling them that it is suitable for like a certain age range isn't enough,
Mhm.
right? When I've looked to invest in some copywriting training, I looked to see if the instructor, and this is when I was starting out, when I was transitioning from like being a photographer, I told you I was previously a photographer, into copywriting. I wanted some formal training. I was like, has this instructor trained someone that doesn't have like a formal writing background? Like, I've always done my own copy, like, but I wanted to know all the rules and all the formal stuff. But I don't, I'm not an author. I'm not an English teacher. I had this mindset like that is
Mm.
kind of what people should be before they become a copywriter. So I was looking at her case studies going, can she teach someone who already has copywriting skills that needs to actually know what all the rules are,
Yeah.
so they can, that sort of thing. So I was looking for that. Yeah. It's really in that relatability is meaningful for people making a buying decision.
It really is. Yeah. Or like sometimes as well, like sometimes like if people are too broad, for instance, I've seen like actually like my gardening course that I did. I'm taking a gardening course because I want to grow my own vegetables. And one of the things like I saw was, like, who's it for? Because I want like complete beginner. I need like gardening for dummies. Like what is soil, but this person was like, oh, this is great for beginners and advanced gardeners. And I was like, how can something be suitable for beginners and advanced gardeners? That makes no sense. And I didn't buy it because I was just like, no, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then the other person who I saw who I did buy from was like, it's beginners or someone with some knowledge, So like, and I thought, okay, well, that makes much more sense. And I feel like I'm seen there,
Yeah.
So again, it just comes down to
Yep.
that being able to self-identify with who they're actually targeting.
Exactly. Yeah.
In real time in a case study.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, well, this has been amazing. I just have one more question to ask before we go. So yeah, what is your sort of like process when it comes to like how do you conduct a case study interview? Because I imagine it's like there's a lot of moving parts because you have to actually like find people, you have to give them, I guess, some sort of incentive to come on and talk to you. Like, how do you do the interview? Then what kind of happens? Is there sort of like a rundown of like your step-by-step process that you use?
Well, firstly, I don't give incentives, and I don't recommend my clients offer incentives or buy the interview in any way. That might be a product of the market that I work in. They've already got a strong relationship with their clients and their students, and usually it is enough to ask. And people are honored to be asked. They are honored to be told that they are an ideal client, and like they want to be able to work with more people like them. And if they have had a transformational experience, if the product course or product or service has made a significant difference in their life, they're happy to share. And that has been my experience up until now. So that is one element that I've heard some people talk about, incentivizing, but it's not something that I recommend because or have needed, basically.
Right.
So I mean, interviewing for a case study, like I said, it starts with the strategic plan. So we want to be able to choose the right participants, and I do that with my clients. It might be a matter of them just talking me through who they think might be a good idea. And I think I mentioned that one element that's really critical is their willingness to talk to their before state. So choosing the right participant, I might be going through survey data with them, and they might go, oh, I'm thinking of this person, this person, this person. I look at their survey data and I go, actually, like, how about this person and this person, like swapping out, that sort of thing, because of these reasons. And that really comes down to what their own business objectives are. So once we have selected the right participants, then I get the client to make the connection between me and the interviewee. And once that introduction is made, then I take over, and the client doesn't have to, like, they just don't have to worry about it for a while. And then I work on building rapport and a relationship, even in just like a really basic service provider sense, with that customer, because I want them to feel like I'm going to respect them, and that they are appreciated, because that taking care of my client's customers, obviously taking care of my client as well. I allow them to book an interview time. I used to do it all over email, like going back and forth, like trying to work out time zones and stuff. And I'm just like, it took so much time and like so many days. Now I just send an email explaining to them what the process is, giving them a Calendly link. I don't even give them questions beforehand that they are going to be answering.
Okay.
I say, I'm broadly going to ask you about XYZ. Our interview is going to be conversational style, because I want to be like quite reactive to what they say and be able to go deeper when I need to. I work off a questionnaire, and I have notes on there based around my client's needs. They want to like highlight a certain part of their process, and they know that this client had a good experience with that. So I've got a note to make sure that I ask if the conversation doesn't come around to that. I mean, I might experiment at one stage, like giving some sample questions, so they maybe feel a little bit more prepared. But honestly, once I'm in the interview with them, there is still like a lot of rapport building, because the greater the trust, the more open they'll be. And, I frequently have people finish off the interview, or when I'm in contact by email with them afterwards, and they're just like, oh, that was like so wonderful, and that was so enjoyable, and like I had such a great time, and it was so good to be able to talk about it, because it's all about them. And it's not because they're full of themselves, but people love to talk about them, like their existence and their experience of the world, and and they like having someone sitting there and paying attention and being genuinely excited and curious. And that's what I try to be in that moment for them, because I'm looking for not just like the business results. Like if it's for a business, I'm not just looking for those tangible like analytical results. I'm looking for those like intangible bits about how it's impacted their life on a broader sense. And if I'm like more flexible with how I ask questions and asking them to go deeper, and they feel safe with me, then that is how that happens. So
that's awesome. And I like as well, it's not just focused on those tangible, Tiffany made $200,000, because like, that's awesome, $200,000, who doesn't want that? But but I what we buy, or what the results that we want, isn't the stuff, it's what it can do for us. You know what I mean? Like she did that, and then completely transformed her business. She hired people. She was able to go on holiday for like a month, and finally stress, and like that's what people actually want. They don't want just the stuff.
Like I like my very first case study I did was during my case study training, right? Because we were learning and doing at the same time, and we had to find a client from our network and offer to do them a case study. And I was interviewing a photographer who was a part of a marketing membership, and she'd gotten great results from implementing the strategies she was learning. And I thought that I would just be talking about her increase in revenue and getting like a sold out full season, like a full calendar. But when I spoke to her, she also shared with me how when she started her business, she had this dream of what it would be like, but it wasn't turning out that way, right? She was sacrificing family time and family resources to keep this business afloat, and she was on the verge of giving up. Her husband was like, hey honey, is this supposed to be a hobby or a business? And she was
Yeah.
like heartbroken and embarrassed, you
Right.
know. So having her business turn around and getting those solid results which she was sharing, still had a deep personal impact on her. She was in demand, and she was working with clients she always wanted to, and shooting in the style that she always like wanted to express her creativity through. So she had a profitable business, and she was not only proud of that, but she was confident in her creativity and her ability to contribute to her home and family. And it was that personal impact that I was kind of like, wow, I wasn't expecting that.
Mhm.
And, you know, and to be honest, like that was also when I realized I wanted to work in the space of transformational businesses like membership owners and course
Mhm.
creators and coaches and that sort of thing, because like stories like that just, you know, I would like get goosebumps, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I love, like, I love, like, that's an element that I love about it.
yeah.
So
Just a
yeah,
positive like thing to be doing all day. It's like
yeah,
literally just writing about how these people transform their lives, like, and I get money
yeah,
for it. It's crazy. It's such a wonderful way to like earn a living, and I totally agree. And I feel like that's what's missing also from a lot of marketing messages, you know? Like, I mean, if one more person tells me like hit consistent 10K months, like I'm just gonna like throw my phone away, I think. I'm just like so over it. I'm just like, that's not what people want. They do, but they want what that gives them, you know? It's
yeah,
like it's that thing about being embarrassed, for instance, that you just said, is like so like just get you in the
yeah,
gut. 'Cause I think like we've all felt that. We've all been at that
yeah,
stage. We've all been like, oh my God, like I'm taking money away from my family. I'm gonna be a failure. I have to like tell people that I'm failing and then maybe go back to something I was doing that I didn't
yeah,
want to do anymore.
yeah,
And like to not have that fear, that's what you're actually looking for, not like you said,
yeah,
the revenue or the other stuff. And I feel like that's what's missing
yeah,
in a lot of marketing messages also.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I had just another recent example of someone who took a copywriting course, a business owner, and she learnt how to write copy, like write emails quite fast without getting like hung up and procrastinating and delaying and that sort of thing. And it was a new mum. She had a baby who was like a couple of months old, and she's like, my schedule is so choppy and changing. I don't have 3 hours in a row to write an email. She goes, and now like I know I can get out the marketing messages and the sales emails to my audience that I need to do and still like be a mum. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then she was like, because with my other child who's like a couple of years old, um, they're a baby when I was starting the business, and she just said, I feel like I missed out on all of that. Like I was sacrificing so much time and spending so much time. And she just said, I missed out on that and I don't have to miss out this time. And it's like, wow, because you can write an email fast.
That's
Like,
it's just
don't underestimate like the difference, like the impact you're making on people's lives, even with something that seems so simple,
I know.
because you are.
Exactly. That's really incredible. And that's exactly what case studies really highlight. And I think like that's why they're so important. So where can people find you if they're interested in working with you and want to get into your universe?
Oh, okay. So I have a website which is just www.casestudyqueen or one word.com.
Hmm.
You can find me there, and socials, I'm most present on Instagram, and that is at Case Study Queen. So actually, I'm kind of at Case Study Queen across pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
I
quite
am
nicely. I
fairly easy to
think no
find.
one's gonna no one else has that. It's quite original.
So yeah,
Perfect. And anyway, I'll put your link in the blog posts and stuff and tag you on Instagram and everything. So make sure people can find you.
awesome.
Wonderful case studies. And you're based in Australia, but you work with everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
We're having this conversation. I'm in Spain and you're in Australia. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I've had interviews with clients in America at, 3 and 4 a.m. And that's fine. I'm an early bird, it's fine. But yeah, like it's the global, and it's a global market, and I love it though. I
yeah,
love connecting with people all over the place. So
Same. I would say like, oh, you can get up early or stay up late or whatever if it's just like a one-off. Like I don't mind if it's like, okay, I've got an interview at 12. Okay, well then tomorrow I'll just sleep in. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me, and I can't wait to get this up because it's going to be so good.
Thank you for having me. It's I really appreciate it, and it's been so much fun talking to you.
Thanks so much.